Hello and welcome to It's Reading Time Somewhere, a cozy podcast where we talk about books, moods, and all the little thoughts in between. My name is Carolina and I'm your host. For this first episode, I decided to divide it in 4 parts where I'm going to talk a little bit about myself, what is this podcast, and also created a little Q&A where I'm going to answer some questions that I did so you guys know me better, a little bit better. I also want to start with a disclaimer. I am not English, I am Portuguese, I'm from Portugal, so if I actually make some mistakes or my English is not as good as you think, I'm so sorry, because as I said, I'm not fluent in English, I am Portuguese, so I'm trying my best to speak in English. So yeah, let's go to the first part. So for the first part of this podcast, I'm going to speak a little bit about myself. My name is Carolina Duarte. I am 21 years old. I'm from Portugal, and I am currently pursuing a master's degree with a minor in interaction. A master's degree of design in a minor of interaction. It's that. So for now I'm going to speak a little bit about the podcast name because I think it's funny, the story why I choose this name. But I'm also a fan of Formula One, and one episode that while I was watching the Formula One series on Netflix, Daniel Ricciardo said something like, it's drinking time somewhere in the world. And I was like, that's a great name for a podcast because it's reading time somewhere in the world. It could be nighttime, for example, in Australia, and people could be reading right now. For example, for me right now, it's afternoon, so it could also be reading time, but it's always reading time. Oh, it's reading o'clock. We can also say that. And for this podcast, I'm kind of thinking about giving my opinions about books, my thoughts about the books, my good and bad ideas, where I like it, where I didn't like it, a little bit of a disclaimer about books. I also want to, if this have a little bit of growth, bring people here to speak a little bit or have like a open talk about what we thought about a book, what we think about the continuation of a series or a saga of a book. I think it's going to be fun. So I'm going to start now the second part where I'm going to speak a little bit, some questions that I did about who I am as a reader. So for the first question, I'm going to say, who am I as a reader? For me as a reader, I'm kind of consider myself as a mood reader because when I'm reading, I don't have that thought of I want to read this, and this. When I finish a book, I could, at the moment, I could be reading a book about vampires, and then I'm going to read a book about wolves, or high phase, or thriller. I don't know. So I read what I'm feeling at that moment, not what I should be reading, like following trends or something like that. I follow what I'm feeling and what I want to read. And what is my vibe? I like fantasy. I think that's my main theme of reading. I love romantic, cozy fantasy, and I am also, I'm going to be honest, I am also a cover judger because last year I read a book that was the Rival Divine, or Divine Rivals. Rival Divine is in Portuguese. Divine Rivals, because the cover in Portugal, it was much prettier than the one in English. So I bought the book, the duology in Portuguese, the 2 books, because the 2 books were so pretty in Portuguese, and in English they were so ugly. I didn't understand that was a typographic thing, that machine of writing, until I read a description of the author, and then I found out that was the typographic machine. So I love the Portuguese edition. I think it's the European edition also, because the German edition also has a very beautiful cover. But now I know that in English version, now there's that cover, but I prefer the Portuguese ones. And how did I fall in love with books? So my story with books, it's a little bit chaotic because I have ADHD. So when I was little, my mother tried to tried me to read books, but I didn't want to read. But when I was in 12th grade, I started having difficulties with my Portuguese because I've learned English since I'm very young. So in my mind, I created like a part where I'm always speaking in English, so it was difficult for me to speak in Portuguese. So I started reading more in Portuguese. But at the time when I was in my 12th grade, I was like 17. I thought that I wanted to read thrillers and dystopian, and I thought that was my vibe. But then I stopped reading when I entered my bachelor. So at the time, I started reading a lot of thrillers, dystopian. Actually, at the time, I started reading the book Fourth, the Divergent saga. And I wanted to continue reading the Divergent. But I'm speaking in Portuguese, sorry. But the editor of the book in Portugal, at the time I was reading in Portuguese, stopped selling the Divergent books. And I couldn't continue reading the Divergent series. So now I can read it, but I don't think that I want to read it for right now. But at the time I was reading dystopian. But then after I followed my bachelor, on my second year to my third year, for a disclaimer, my favorite movie of all time is House Moving Castle. And then I discovered that there was 3 books of the series of House Moving Castle. And I was like, I'm going to buy the books. And that's when my fantasy passion started with House Moving Castle. Then during this summer, I think that this year I only read 1 book, 2 actually. The first House Moving Castle, then I started reading, but at the time I didn't have the reading pace that I have right now. So it was like in 2023. And then in 2024, in the middle of the year, I decided to start my first reading goal. So my first reading goal last year was 20 books. I did read 20 books. And this year, my reading goal is to read 25 books. And I've read till the moment 21. And we are in the 4th month of the year. I don't know what is happening with me this year, but yeah. So yeah, I think that whenever I start reading more fantasy, it's when I discover actually my passion in reading more books. Because as a person with ADHD, I think that I could travel a lot more open worlds. I could explore more. I could explore my dream mind and something like that. So I think that's where I fall in love with books. And what does mood reader mean to me? Just like I said, mood reader, it's basically I read what I want to read, what I feel like reading right now, and not something that I'm going to read just because other people are reading. I think that's that. And what made me want to start this podcast? This is actually funny because I did a trend that was on TikTok, which is like, I did this, it's obvious that, I did this trend was like, I've read 21 books this year, it's obvious that, and one of my friends answered me that video and said, oh my God, you are my inspiration, I want to read as much books as you, and then we want to create a podcast where we speak about them. And I was like, that's a great idea, why didn't I think about that? Because I'm always wanting to speak about the books, but I have no one. So why not create a podcast where I can speak about them? So I think that's a really nice idea, and I decided to create this. So that's why I want to, in further episodes, I want to speak a little bit with other people, or bring other people to here where they can speak about their opinions about the books, what they thought while reading, things like that. And now for the third part, I'm going to answer more deeper questions about what to expect from this podcast. So I'm going to do some reviews, I'm going to do some deep dives, and I don't know if I'm going to do some updates because I think I'm a little bit lazy, because I'm going to be honest, I don't follow any writers. I should, but I don't follow any writers. Most of the time, I think that I'm a really bad person at following person on Instagram or on social media, because I don't go to social media that much. But whenever I have found something, it's going to appear on my For You, not my For You page, but like my recommendation on Instagram. So I'm going to see it anyways, or I'm going to receive news. So I'm not going to be giving that much updates because I'm probably not going to be updated, but I'm going to give my reviews about some books, what I'm currently reading, and some things that I thought about while reading the book. Things like that. Like I said, I want to also bring guests to some of the podcasts. And how often will I release the episodes? I brought the pink elephant into the room. So this is a very hard question to me because while I'm doing my master's, I am currently also doing my thesis. And also my thesis is also related to reading habits. So it's funny. It's a curiosity. And I'm kind of thinking about this being one episode per month when I have time to sit and relax and be able to record and be relaxing and edit the audio. I think that's going to be nice, just to be one episode per month. And also this year I've been reading like 3 to 4 books per month, so I think that's going to be greater because I'm going to have more books to speak about. What books did I thought in that month? I think that's going to be funny, that dynamic. So yeah. So and also other elephant in the room, is it going to be structured or more free flowing? So as I said, I have ADHD, so structured for me doesn't work. So just like now, I'm losing my thoughts while I'm speaking because even I can structure like the things that I want to say, but then when I'm speaking, I'm more open-minded and I like to say whatever I'm thinking at the moment. So I'm going to say a lot of things, but yeah, I think it's more free-flowing, and I think that's going to be more honest and more open-minded, and I think it's going to be better. And so now for the fourth part, I'm going to do that fictional that I made myself. Let's pretend that people actually ask me, and I'm doing like a Q&A. Let's pretend. Okay, so what's your go-to comfort read? My go-to comfort read is romantasy, especially enemies to lovers, and cozy fantasy. Last year, I started reading a series of books by the author Delaney Hush, Emilia Nokata. I don't think that's her surname, but her first name is Emily, but her pen name is Delaney Hush. I don't think I'm saying it right, but I'm sorry. It's the House Witch series, and then she has other, which is a single book. It's The Princess of Potential, but it's continuation of the book. And then she has 3 more books. That is the Burning Witch, and now she published a book on 1st of April of this year that was The Other Witch. And I think I want to read that book, and I want to also enter in my mood reader era of cozy fantasy books again. So yeah, for the next question, let's pretend, okay. Are you more enemies to lovers or friends to lovers? Like I said, I'm more enemies to lovers. I don't think that I've read any friends to lovers, probably. Further, I remember, no, but I'm currently more reading enemies to lovers, and also liked enemies to lovers, or when the spice and they are picking with each other and they are always like shouting. I think creates a different dynamic. I don't know. I don't think I've read any friends to lovers, but if I read, I'm going to be honest. But I think I've read. What's a book you pretend you have read but haven't? I don't think that I lie about what books I read. I think people thought that I read ACOTAR, but I actually just started reading ACOTAR right now. But people that sees that I read a lot of fantasy, so they think that I've read a lot of books before, but then I haven't read. So a lot of people thought that I've read ACOTAR before, so I was like, no, I haven't started. But I think that I didn't lie. I think just people thought, and I didn't actually. I don't know. Whenever they did me like, but you haven't read it, I always tell the truth, like, no, I haven't. But yeah. So for the next question, hardcover, paperback, or digital? So before I bought my Kobo, I always paperback because hardcover in Portugal is so expensive that I don't think that I have any hardcover in here. I know they have limited editions, but I always buy paperback because before I have a Kobo, it was more cheaper, and the other bad part about buying paperback here in Portugal is that you don't have like a paperback normal size like the Portuguese ones. You have a paperback that is the pocket size. So the font, the typography is so small that it hurts my eyes, and I use glasses. So when I bought the Kobo, it was such a relief. And I also prefer the Kobo because I'm not studying at my my city, my birthday city. I'm in another city, so it's easier to bring my Kobo with me. It doesn't have to be like a huge book around, and then I have like to be careful with it to not ruin it. So I think I can right now I prefer digital, and I also can change the light and change the font, change the size of the font. And I think for me it's better. And also reading at night, and I have to force my vision to read the letters, or I have to use a light to be able to see the book. So right now I prefer digital, and I still buy the books, like my trophy books. So, but I still like to buy the paperback, but right now I prefer digital, and it's more easy to use. And for the last question, favorite time of day to read? My favorite time of the day to read is probably at night when I'm going to bed. I like to go to bed early because I'm a morning person, but sometimes I get to sleep away, and then I go to sleep at 5 a.m. or something like that, and I am a morning person, so that doesn't work with me because I like to wake up early. And I like to then go to bed early so I can read and be able to read. So like it did last night when I'm reading the second book of Akhtar, and I don't know. I don't want to speak about it right now. But yeah, it's at night, my favorite time of day to read. So before I finish this podcast, I want to give a little bit of some recommendations of books that I've read this year, and I think that other people should read. So one of my favorite books I read this year was a series that I said that I was never going to read because it was so trendy and a lot of people was liking the book and things like that. It was Caraval, the series of Caraval. And I must admit, I'm still thinking about this series, and I don't know if there's going to be a continuation of the books, but if there is going to be, I want to, because I need to see what happens with a child of someone. I'm not going to give some spoilers, but if I give spoilers, I'm going to write in the description of the podcast. But Caraval, it's a really nice series in case you haven't read. And the other books, I'm also going to speak in the next episodes books I've read this year and what I like, but Caraval and the third book of The Serpent and the Wings of the Night, which is The Ashes and the Star-Cursed King, is also one of my favorite books of this year, and the saga of Fourth Wing also. These are my 3 favorite books I've read this year, and I've read 21. So it's that. So, and to wrap up this and not having more time, I really want to say thank you for joining me and thank you for listening till here. And I invite you to follow this podcast. If you want to know more stuff, write in the comments. Let's create this a cozy space, a little reading nook corner, I don't know, where we can chat together, where I can be funny and dynamic. So thank you so much for reading, and I hope to see you next time. And remember, it's always reading time somewhere.